Well, hello and welcome to Small Business Saturday Shout Out. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and I'm super excited that you're here today because it's time to wake up. My guest today, Laurie Battaglia, we're going to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So stick around. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Small Business Saturday Shout Out. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and I'm super excited for today. But I also want to take a moment today because it is 9/11. I want to take a moment today just to remember all those in the last 20 years. This is like a 20-year anniversary. All those who sacrificed, who lost their lives, who gave of themselves in the last 20 years, all because of what happened this day 20 years ago. So I just wanted to honor them and pay tribute to them today. I had the privilege of doing that because we're going live today. So um, my heart goes out to those families of not just the victims on the day, but all those who gave their lives since then. So, with that said, I welcome you to Small Business Saturday Shout Out. Again, your host, Alicia Couri. And I want to say, hey to everyone out there who is on Facebook, who's watching. Thank you so much. Don't forget to drop a comment and say hi. We love to interact with you. Those of you who are on YouTube, hello, take your time there on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Also, we broadcast on LinkedIn. Hello, LinkedIn, and hello to Twitch, our audience over on Twitch. We are not just a show on Saturday, but we're also a community on Facebook. So we have a Facebook group. It's called Small Business Saturday Shout Out, or we like to collapse that and say SBSSO. So join our Facebook group. It is facebook.com/groups/SBSSO. And there you can meet other business owners, small business owners, collaborate. We've had some great collaborations happen in that group. You can promote anything that you have going on in your business in that group. And so come on over and join us over on Facebook. And like I said earlier, if you're on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you are watching us anywhere else, head on over to YouTube and just give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a thumbs up on this show. We love the hearts, we love the thumbs up, we love the likes, just so that we know that you're enjoying the content. It's meaningful to you. Just share that with us with either a comment or a thumbs up or a like. That would be most appreciated. If you would like to connect with me and either be a guest on this show or any of the other shows that we have going on, you can go ahead and follow and connect with me. You can find me on alicia360.com. You can go to that website. It is kind of like a connection hub for me. So if you go to alicia360.com, and you can see everywhere that I'm connected on social media and just connect with me. You can also book on my calendar. You can check out my websites. You can send me a WhatsApp, just go right there and you'll get it all right there. So like I said before, Small Business Saturday Shout Out is here to give you exposure for your business and your brilliance. So I would love to share with you how you can get a shout out on a Saturday. And we do something a little bit differently on this show. It's not just for the shout out here, but if you are a guest on the show, this interview becomes part of your media assets because we edit it for you and you get it as a direct download so that you can continue to promote this content on your website or your social media. So if you would like to get a shout out and be a guest on this show, there are 3 ways that you can get a shout out on a Saturday on this show. So the very first way, of course, is becoming a guest on the show. So you can always just DM me or connect with me in I just gave you a multitude of ways to connect with me. So you can connect with me to be a guest on the show. Hello, Bernadette. Thank you so much for joining us today. So connect with me to find out more about being a guest on the show. That's one way that you can get a shout out on Saturday. The second way is if you'd like to do a 30-second commercial for your show and be a sponsor for the show, you can come on over. You can either join us live or send us over a video clip, 30-second video clip of your business, and we will share that on the show live. And the third way for you to get a shout out is the simplest way, and that is to leave a comment of who you are, what your business is, and how people can get in touch with you. That's the easiest way to get a shout out. And guess what? I'm going to read it here live on the show. So if you want a shout out, just put that in the comments and I'll read that out. If you are joining us from the Facebook group, you have to give StreamYard permission to use your name and likeness. Otherwise, just tag yourself at the end of your comment with your name. That way I know who it is that is commenting. But that's only if you're in the Facebook group, because it does, for privacy reasons, it hides your name. So yes, go ahead and drop your name, your business name, and how people can get in touch with you, and I will shout you out. So that's the easiest way. Again, you can be a sponsor of this show if you would like to sponsor a Small Business Saturday Shout Out show. We'll have it going across on the crawler during the show so people know that you've sponsored that show. Something like this. This show is sponsored by Alicia Couri Inc. and produced by Red Carpet CEO. Now that I've said all of that, it is time to bring up my guest. I am super excited to bring up with us today on the show, Miss Laurie Battaglia. And we're going to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, which is super important. And her message is to wake up. So stick around. Hello, and welcome to Small Business Saturday Shout Out. I am your host, Alicia Couri, and today we have an amazing guest with us. It is Miss Laurie Battaglia. And so we are going to have a really interesting conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion coming up. And if you give me 1 second so I can bring up her bio. I had a little bit of a computer glitch happen a moment ago. I have been really being challenged these past few weeks with my computer. So give me 1 second. Let me get this up for you. Yeah. So welcome. Let me tell you a little bit about Laurie and why I believe what she is doing in her business is very essential. So Laurie Battaglia is the CEO of Aligned at Work in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's on a personal mission to wake up the leaders of organizations who think that they can delay inevitable change. She is a futurist and strategizer, a connector of people and resources. She believes in balancing people and profit in business for a sustainable future. Aligned at Work helps leaders understand how to lead inclusively so that all people are valued and thrive. Aligned Leader Training, their signature program, shows a measurable ROI of 113% for leaders and organizations. Laurie is the creator of the Aligned for Life model for integrated work and life, and the Aligned Leader model for inclusive leadership. Laurie's book, Aligned Workplaces, Integrating Life and Work, a practical guide for leaders and teams, walks people through the Aligned for Life model, then provides helpful team leader guides for integrating the 5 elements to create inclusive cultures at work. Laurie's 35 plus year career as a corporate leader spanned the smallest to the largest of companies. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona with her husband, Joseph, and two cats, Gizmo and Cheddar. She's a mother, stepmom, mom, Reiki master, teacher, and avid yoga enthusiast. Oh my goodness. I am super, super excited to welcome to the show Laurie Battaglia. Hey, Laurie.
Hey, Alicia, how are you?
I'm great. And not to mention, in all of that, we're friends.
Yes.
Yay! I'm super
Yay.
excited to have you in my sphere of friends because you are very enlightened. Like you said in your bio, you're a futurist. You bring so much energy and life to everything that you do, and I love that.
Thank you. I could say the same right back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, your message is really to wake up leaders. Why
Yeah.
do you believe now, especially, is so important for them to, like, hello, wake up?
Well, I've been saying it for a while now. I think that's why I have the white hair, because sometimes as a futurist, you're saying things well before other people are, and they think you're crazy at first. And then by the time it comes around, you're on to the next thing that you see coming. And so it's a life that's not for everybody.
Right.
But, I think it's the time, because even before the pandemic hit us and we went into lockdown and all the things that have happened between 2020 and 2021, before that happened, people were saying that they were looking for more diversity. They were looking for more inclusion. They wanted purpose in their work. They wanted to feel like they belonged, that someone was listening to them, and that they had a life outside work. And all that was going on. The pandemic hit us. And I think a lot of leaders are, especially, okay, so let's just call this out right now, especially the old white guys my age, because I'm 65. So my generation of boomer leaders, and even the next generation Gen X leaders behind them, tend to, from my observation, act in the same way. And I think they can just let things go. And a lot of them are kind of dumbfounded and blindsided by the changes in everything from, I would say, the people that are 40 on down to in their teenage years. They don't understand what's going on. They think they can wait. They think they can wait for the next person who's going to take over leadership to do it because they're this close to retirement.
Right.
And it's a big change.
They don't want to make the big change.
You just can't wait any longer.
So when it comes to diversity, I heard something, I was checking out your website and I heard something, it says, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, it's that we all want to be invited to the dance, right?
Yes.
But not only do we want to be invited to the dance, because you hear, we need a seat at the table and all these things, but we want to be invited to the dance, but we also want to be asked to dance.
Yes.
So
we want to feel like we belong there.
Right. Not like, like we're stuck in a corner and nobody wants to talk to us. And yeah, you can come to the dance, but just stay over there.
Right. Right.
Stay with your little group. Nobody really wants you here.
Right.
So, right. And that's belonging. That's that sense of I belong here.
Yeah.
I don't have to feel like an imposter. I don't have to feel like, because that's what imposter syndrome really is all about, is that you don't feel, not only don't you have it together, but you don't feel like you really belong there.
Right. And you feel like they're going to find you out somehow. Whoever they are,
right?
Are going to find you out.
Who is this they you speak of?
Yeah. Who is this they? Exactly. Yeah. And I think, I saw a former employer who shall remain nameless. I want to go back probably 25 years now. So some of your listeners might have been really young at that point, others not so young. But about 25 years, 30 years ago was when I started hearing about diversity. And we weren't really on to equity or inclusion or belonging at that point. It was, we need to get, frankly, different color faces than just all white people in the workplace. And we need to start pushing more women up into leadership. And we need to get more people of color into the organization and then into positions of leadership. And so I think it felt for most of us like we had to wait our turn. Who's next? Okay, and what I saw was that this employer did a wonderful job of going out and getting diverse faces and diverse backgrounds into the organization, and had no idea what to do with them once they got there.
Wow.
And did not know there was an issue with that. So just because they were at the dance, can't they figure out how to dance? And then this music you've never heard before, well, you'll get it after a while. And then we get out on the floor now.
But you have to kind of immerse yourself in our culture. You have to figure out how we work.
Yes.
Like, we're not interested in your ideas of how you want to do it. You have to, we're inviting you in, but you have to figure out how to now immerse yourself in this. I want to ask about affirmative action. There are a couple of things that I want to ask you, but affirmative action, like that was that like the first wave of that?
I think, so I entered the workplace in 1978. Well, actually before that as a teenager, but my first real job in banking, being a bank teller, was 1978. And I'll tell you what, folks, Alicia is having a hard time with her computer, and I just saw her go away. She'll be back.
No, I'm still here. I was just, okay. I put you in solo, but yeah, thank you for that.
Uh-oh, do we do that? Okay.
Did I disappear? Yes.
Cool. Thank you. I will know that for the next time. So back in 1978, the rules and the laws were actually changing. It was really the first time women could get a loan on their own or start their own business without another signer. I even know stories about women starting a business and having to have an 18-year-old son sign for them because women couldn't have things on their own.
Right.
And I don't know what
smart enough.
Right. And you couldn't really be trusted. And then you'd go off and have babies and everything would go to hell in a handbasket.
Everything will fall apart. Right.
Yes. And having been in the savings and loan business, we did a lot of mortgages. And I remember doing mortgage applications that now it was legal to get a house together if you weren't married and you didn't intend to get married. So sometimes people would buy a house, but, we're getting married in another month and then he's going to move in and then I'm going to, all this stuff that was common back then that people are like, what now? And so, affirmative action came around somewhere in the 60s, 70s. I'm not sure what the year was, but it was an attempt to level the playing field.
But it wasn't really leveled.
No, it wasn't really leveled. It was a good first step, I think. Some people are like, I don't need affirmative action. I can just work my way up there. Well, the funny thing about systems is that if we're benefiting from the system, we can't feel it or see it. It's kind of like you and I are in the same business groups. And in there we say that, what is that? The one thing that we always say all the time that you can't, the sharpest knife can't carve its own handle.
Knife can't carve its own handle, or you can't read your label from inside the jar. When you're in it, you don't see the real problems from the inside.
And if it's not a problem for you, you feel like everybody, if they just worked a little harder, if they just paid more attention, if they just put in extra hours, whatever it is, you don't see it. So you think it's not a big deal for anybody else.
Right.
And it's a really big deal for other people. And I'm learning that as I go. It's not like I woke up enlightened one day and I still don't think I am. I think this is a dynamic, ever evolving field. So, and I like that. I like crazy change. It's like change is fun for me until it's not. But it does continue to change. Like what's okay now might not be okay tomorrow. And that frustrates a lot of people that are used to,
status quo.
Systems as usual, things as usual.
Right. And I think that trips up a lot of people in that sense too. So have you experienced sexism and your own and having experienced that, is that why you started your own company for this work?
It is. I have two older brothers and they are former bankers and I'm a former banker. And I realized around age 3 my mom would tell you if she were still alive today that I was a kid that grew up saying, do it self, do it self, do it self. Like, get out of my way, I'll do it. And I remember thinking that I was doing exactly what my older brothers were doing. They were 5 and 8 years older than I was. So of course you're the littlest one. You're going to mimic what the older ones are doing.
Absolutely.
But if I did identical things to them, I was called a bad girl and they were good boys. Like, because girls didn't behave the same way boys behave, supposedly, which I'd never understood. And then it just kind of went from there. And I realized as I continued on that it was gonna continue to be a wall that I was going to hit. I think I saw that for, I'll give you a couple of quick examples from early in banking. One, our human resources director was also somebody that went out and inspected homes, believe it or not, the old days of, small organizations and savings salons. He came into the teller area one day to see if one of my male tellers wanted to go out on an inspection with him. And I said, well, what about one of the girls, one of the females? And he said, oh, well, you don't think they have the shoes for it, and it's going to get messy and dirty. And I would call him on it time after time after time. Don't offer it to this woman who happens to live 20 miles away because she might not want to make that drive, what with her kids. And I would stop him over and over every time he would say something I considered ignorant. Well, I wouldn't think she would. And I would say, well, would you think a man would? And he'd say, well. And so it was just an ongoing, constant thing. And I got very, very angry. And so I began to be more militant about it and more like telling you all the time why you're wrong and all that. And I don't do that anymore. I don't know that I ever changed any hearts and minds by being very, very angry about something.
Right.
And I had to step out of that battle for a while before I could get back in a different way.
You win more bees with honey than with vinegar.
And then there's that line where you're like, okay, I've honeyed that person enough.
And
what does that stop?
They are drenched with honey and it's still not changing.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, because in your bio, it talks about you being a futurist. And what do you think your superpower is, Laurie?
I had to unpack that a while ago. And I remember our coaches saying that the superpower is the thing that you do it so well and so easily, you think everybody else does it too.
Yeah.
And they don't. And it takes a while and a lot of self-awareness. I think the first step for me was having our friend Angelique ask me, so what is it that people say when they say, well, we worked with you and we knew we were going to get X, but I had no idea we were going to get Y. Yeah. And it's the why. And I was like, we build trust quickly. And she said, you build trust quickly. How do you do that? And I said, I don't know. I think everybody, and she's like, no, they don't. No, they don't. No.
No, they don't.
No. And I realized, so I had to think about it for quite a while. And I realized that I had actually been taught how to do it at one point, but that had been 20 years prior. So therefore I had integrated it into who I was now. Yeah. And it became very natural. And so that same employer that kind of effed things up with diversity at first, they taught me how to facilitate, how to include everybody, how not to exclude people by inadvertent actions. Like, let's say that you really don't want to answer. And I say, Alicia, share with us, and you're not ready to answer. Well, that could shut a lot more people down than just you. They taught me things like that. And I then took all those lessons and I integrated them into who I was and how I went about my life. Mm-hmm. And so it just became a natural for me. And the superpower is like that. You can't really see it yourself.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. Building trust and helping to integrate all of that into organizations to help them with better culture.
Yeah.
So Aligned at Work, what exactly do you do with companies and organizations?
Well, we do so many things. We go at it in many different ways. So it might be diversity and inclusion consulting or training. It might be team alignment with the senior team and then on down through the organization. It could be executive coaching. It could be any of that. But it all rolls up under inclusion and building inclusive leaders and cultures, because cultures don't happen without leaders that buy into including everyone. And that's really uncomfortable for so many people. So we help them get comfortable with the discomfort so that they can broaden out and listen and realize that every single person that works for you or works with you has a different sort of equation of things that make them, in the diversity world, we call that intersectionality.
Mm-hmm.
So, I joke about being the white straight boomer woman that does diversity and inclusion and how I almost excluded myself because what's a white straight boomer woman doing in the world of diversity and inclusion? But if not me, then who?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is, sorry about that.
Okay.
I did have something that I wanted to ask you about the future, because as a futurist, and we did talk a little bit before about, by the time everyone else catches up to you, you're way ahead.
Yes.
So what do you see as the future in organizations when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I hope there's a time when we don't need to talk about it, but I don't think it's coming anytime soon. On the other hand, when I look at my grandchildren, they range in age from 18. She's a freshman at Temple University in Philadelphia, to her sibling who is going to be 16 and is probably non-binary, and then down to my grandsons who are 3 and 1 and less than 1. When I look at their generation and how they come into the world, they come in many cases, not all cases, much more accepting. I think the kids come in accepting and they very quickly pick up what's around them.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's home or school or whatever that lesson is that's being taught, the kids are very much absorbing that. So eventually, I hope we don't even need to talk about this. But my prediction, and this is sort of a world prediction, I said to my husband about 10 years ago, in another couple of generations, all of our babies will be brown,
Mm-hmm.
and we will fall in love with another soul. At first I said with another person, and I was like, I think I'm just going to say soul.
Mm.
And I think that, we've tried to label a lot of things that people that are younger are not necessarily, they're learning what the label is, but they just know it is who they are. Right. So gender, for example, I always took to be binary, and it was my friend who happens to be a trans man who said, Laurie, gender's not binary. And I was like, mind blown. And at that moment, the feminist work got broadened out into all inclusion.
Mm.
But it was that one person saying something like that to me. I was like, so when I look at organizations and I look at our nation, and it's really kind of divided in halves at this point. And then there's the middle. Granted, right. It's a continuum, but there are really 2 halves to the story, really. And then where do you fall on the continuum of the extremes? Well, if that's the case, how do we bring those folks together inside organizations? And it's a big challenge for leaders. It is not simple. It is not easy. It is not. Yeah. It's not easy for me.
It's a minefield. It's really a minefield.
Yes. It is. Yes.
Trying to navigate this alone. Like,
yes.
You have your expertise in one thing. This is a whole other expertise. And this is why you need an organization like Aligned at Work to come in and help you navigate that minefield, because, you think you can do it successfully.
Yes.
And a lot of times in thinking that you can do it successfully, because this is not your expertise. Your business is your expertise. So bring the experts in to help you navigate this. As far as the remote world, do you think it's getting easier because we're remote, or is it getting more difficult in a remote world?
I think we're in the difficult stage of it, because again, if I look at the boomers that are leading now and the people right behind them, we're used to having everybody in one place. Now, as a person who used to lead trainers, that's like herding cats. Most days, I can go on the schedule, and I could when I was in corporate, go in the schedule and see what room somebody was in right now training. But the reality was when they weren't training, I didn't necessarily know where they were, nor did I want to. So I'm used to herding cats and them not all being in one place at one time. And how do you make that work? But most people are not. And I remember doing a class in 2019 for an organization about how to manage virtual teams. And the one guy was like, nope, if I can't see them, they're not working. And there's a lot of that out there. Whether somebody is brave enough to say that out loud or just feels it and you know, is acting from that point of view. So it's hard right now, but there are companies that I have worked with that have been virtual since day one, especially if they're in the design or tech field. You're better off if you just have your own space set up. I've got my 2 monitors and my ring light and the whole bit set up here. I don't like it when I travel and I have to operate off a laptop because this is my space and I know where stuff is.
Right. And what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And as far as women in the workplace, because the remote work has hurt women more than anyone else in all of this. How is that? And what do you think should be the next steps in regaining our ground?
I think, and I do think it's coming in younger generations because I watch my stepkids that have young kids and how both spouses share the upbringing and doing things. Probably not 100% equally, but close. And it needs to equal out that it's not just always the woman's job to mind
the women all the time.
Home. It just doesn't work. It's exhausting. I have 1 son. My husband has 4 kids. They're all grown now, but I don't know how they ever did it with 4 because I could just barely manage with 1. And you don't get a lot of sleep. And then you get exhausted and everything seems to be more extreme. And I can't imagine going through the pandemic with small kids at home that
I know
they got school.
My heart goes out to moms who were and dads who were trying to navigate that whole thing and still are working through that because we're still in it. We're still pretty much in it, even though schools have reopened.
And organizations, the one thing that was in a report even before the pandemic was that people want better parental leave for all parents, like both.
Yeah, for both.
And they are demanding much more of that now and lengthening that out, and that it needs to be paid, not unpaid leave, because who can afford that with, housing prices and everything the way they are? Who can afford it?
Food price, everything's gone up too. Yeah.
Organizations really have to get on board with that. It's not just one parent's job to raise the children and the other parent gets to, spend their time at work and not worry about it.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
Sharing in all duties. So I want to ask for 3 tips. If an organization is watching, a leader is watching right now, what are 3 tips that they can sort of start to integrate now for that better culture, more inclusive culture that they're probably looking to get to?
You know what? I'm going to stand up and pull off 10 tips on how to build an inclusive culture. Just watch my green screen go back here behind me now.
A little bit.
I did not bring that down to talk to. So, and by the way, I'll send this to anybody. I have a bit.ly link that people can just go in and they can automatically get the 10 tips to build an inclusive culture.
Awesome. So wait, before you even say that, you can go to her website. It's going across the bottom of the screen. It is alignedatwork.com. And you can email Laurie at alignedAtWork.com. It's Laurie at alignedwork.com to get those 10 tips.
Yep.
Go on ahead.
Okay. And if they put in bit.ly, so bit.ly// and do 10 inclusion tips, that will get them right to it.
The number 10 or you spell out 10?
You spell out 10. If I put that in our chat,
I'm typing it in now. 10
All right,
inclusion
here we
tips.
go. I'm sending it to you,
So
and you can
then,
just grab that link.
beautiful.
That'll also put you on our mailing list, which we want to get reactivated pretty soon. So, yeah, you'll see us a lot more out there. So I'm gonna just read 3 of them, or maybe I'll read 2 and then add my own in. So that inclusion matters, but it does take time to do it. Working with your team, take 10 minutes each week. So it's only 10 minutes a week, to understand and know one another. Use mixer activities. Be aware that talking about oneself can be anxiety producing for some people, and bond over favorite activities or interests outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
I realized a long time ago that it was when people started talking about
Their families and
their families,
hobbies.
the causes, the hobbies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's when people were like, "Oh, you save animals too, so do I."
Mm-hmm.
You know, cat dog.
They build commonality and they understand each other on a different level.
Yeah.
And that's part of also building a personal brand, is letting people really get to know you outside of just what you do.
Yes. And then I'm randomly doing this. Don't allow anybody to feel othered. So we always talk about in the world of diversity and inclusion that you don't get the belonging if you feel like you're not on that list. Like there's a list, I'm not on it. And again, if you are on the list, you don't have any awareness of it. You just know that life is good.
You just know, you don't
when
know
you're not.
List.
Because it took me a while to not be on the list, and I felt it big time. And I kept like, what happened? Why am I? How come I can't? Yeah, it was weird.
What did I do?
Yeah, and you think it's something that you're doing or not doing, and it may not be. So don't allow anybody to feel othered, because we know it when we don't feel connected. And whether somebody identifies by gender or sexual orientation differently than you, or they're differently abled, or they're a different race, religion, age, get to know people on a personal level. So it's being much more intentional about doing some of the things that we used to do, but with virtual, we really have to get much, much more intentional than we ever did, because there's no random running into people anymore. And that's the big thing that has fallen out. And then, of course, third tip is call aligned at work, because we come in and we meet you where you are. So there's no shame or blame when our team comes in to work with you. We're just trying to identify where you are kind of on the continuum. We always say, you need to do something, but you don't know what, call us, because we'll walk you through it, and we will just make sure that you're okay on that process through. And there will be moments where you're not okay, and it is what it is, and you'll never get it totally right. So just get ready for that.
And that's you said something big there too, is you'll never get it totally right. And we need to also be forgiving of those who are trying.
Yes.
If you have a leader that's trying, you can't keep knocking them down if they're not getting it right away. Give them some space and help them with it. One of the things that's really, for me, at least, when I work with clients, and you said it, if you ask people in an open forum to speak, they might not always be comfortable speaking. And that's why I love some of the assessment work that I do in helping assess people, is you get to know who is going to be talkative and who is more introverted and won't be that person. So don't call on them, because you're going to make them now feel very self-conscious, and they're not going to want to do it. And then those who are like them in the room are going to be, oh my God, they're going to call on me next. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? So it's also about understanding the people around you, so that you know how to interact with them and not just put them out there.
Yes. And a tip for facilitators is always ask the question at some point, okay, let's hear from some of the folks we haven't heard from. Who else would like to weigh in? Because it invites people rather than pointing them out. You didn't say anything. What are you thinking? Like, maybe they're thinking nothing. Maybe they're thinking about something that happened outside work. You might not want to ask that question. And just leave them be if they're not really ready to. And, we're hearing more about neurodiversity in the workplace, that not everybody processes the same. and we're hearing a lot more about mental health issues.
Yeah.
And boy, if you haven't experienced something over the last year, I don't know what to say.
Who you are, right? So make the invitation. Don't point people out. That's actually tip number 4.
Yeah, there you go.
So we got a bonus. We got a bonus. Yay. Love bonuses.
Yes.
Freebie. So
Yes.
get those 10 tips for inclusion. Just go to bit.ly.com/10 inclusion tips. And that's a start to building a better, more inclusive culture. And call Aligned at Work.
Absolutely.
Connect with Laurie. And here's her LinkedIn, so you can connect with her on LinkedIn as well. Go to Laurie Battaglia at LinkedIn, and to connect with her company, got a little click happy there, to connect with her company, go to linkedin.com/company/align-at-work. Laurie, it has been an extreme pleasure having you on the show. And yes, we got a little extra time with Laurie today because she was my guest for today, and I was so excited to have her on. Any closing thoughts you would like to share as we close out the show?
Well, I'm honored to be here because I've wanted to do this for some time. So I appreciated the invitation when you made the invitation, and just walk into this one step at a time. Honor yourself. And by the way, this work is so heavy sometimes. Self-care is really important. Disconnect, get outside if the weather is decent for that. Put your feet on the earth, all those kinds of things. Read your own energy and take it little bits at a time, because little bits at a time do make big change over time.
Thank you, Laurie. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here with us and sharing such wonderful information about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what the future of that is. So
thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye. Wow. That was a lot that Laurie was able to share with us about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and how you can start implementing small changes in your organization to create that culture of inclusivity for everyone. So again, let me just share with you how to get in touch with Laurie. You can go to aligned-at-work.com, or you can email her, laurie@aligned-at-work.com. You can also get her 10 tips. It's bit.ly/10 inclusion tips. And to connect with her on LinkedIn, you can search Laurie Battaglia or Aligned at Work on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. We have this show, SBSSO, Small Business Saturday Shout Out, every Saturday. Well, most Saturdays. Most Saturdays. Next Saturday, we will be taking a break. And then we'll come back again on the 25th for another episode. But also, don't forget to check out our new show. And Laurie kind of alluded to it about self-care. And our new show is Love My Body, Love Myself. It is on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. So make sure to check that out. We have a Facebook group for that as well. So if you want to jump on over to join that, it's all about self-care, self-love, and how we begin that journey to really, really loving ourselves and loving the body that we have been given, no matter the age, the size, or whatever. How do we learn to love that body? So check us out next week. I'm talking to a health and wellness, health and fitness expert, Lydia Martinez Ebling, and it is a fascinating conversation that we're having, all about hormones and women over a certain age, and how do we continue to stay healthy, look great, feel great, especially, and live a more active and wonderful life, loving ourselves and loving our bodies. Anyway, I so appreciate you coming today and being a part of this show, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to comment, to subscribe, to like, and to share this out. This work is really important that Laurie at Aligned at Work is doing. So make sure you share it with another leader who is looking to bring more inclusivity and belonging into their organization. Until next time, I will see you And everyone have the best rest of their weekend. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I'll see you next time.